Hi, everyone. Very glad to be here. I have the very happy privilege of hosting some of the best and probably most diverse NFT projects in the Kusama and Polkadot ecosystem. Since I probably won't do it justice, I'll allow them to introduce themselves. Do you want to go ahead and get us started, Miami, with just...
I'm Miami. I'm the CEO and one of the co-founders of Moonbeans on Moonriver and Moonbeam. We're an NFT marketplace, probably the biggest in terms of volume in general that's open to collections. Me alongside, I do the front end. I'm a software engineer of 7 years, and my co-founder is a back-end engineer of 5 years, and together we run this project, and I've met most of these people through that. Let's go to the next person.
Hey everybody, my name is Mark. I work biz dev with RMRK. We're building an interoperable NFT standard on Kusama. Nestable, equipable NFTs, multi-resource, forward compatible, and eternally liquid NFTs.
Hi everyone, I'm Charu, CMO at Unique Network. We are building the NFT middleware and infrastructure layer for anyone who'd like to build their own NFT marketplace. And all the advanced capabilities that Mark mentioned are also, we're building some of those in collaboration with Bruno on our chain as well. So yeah, very happy to be here. Thank you.
Hey everyone, I'm KBL, co-founder of Kusama Kingdom NFTs, which is a smaller collection where we try and focus on decentralizing VC and providing our holders with certain private seed round deals. And yeah, we built on Singular, which was done by RMRK and Mark and his team.
Everyone, my name is Craig. I'm a Solidity developer on the Exiled Races team. We're a multi-asset NFT multiplayer online game. Sort of easy description, I think, is if you think of sort of Zed-Run meets Mario Kart is sort of the sphere that we live in. I'm on a team of 6. We have 2 developers, a biz dev and marketing lead, and then we have a really talented creative team of 3 who work with us. And we are right now currently deployed on the Moonbeam network, and excited to be talking with everybody on the panel today.
Cool. And so one of the things I think is most interesting about Polkadot and Kusama, especially from an NFT perspective, is that they're very different, and like where you choose to build and the cultures on each are very different. And so I think mostly we have Kusama folks here, but we've got a couple liaising with Polkadot as well. So when you guys were looking to build, how did you pick which network? Kind of what drove you to build where you guys are building for each of your projects?
So well, when we started, it was only Kusama. There was no Polkadot, so it was by default. But why we chose Kusama over, say, Ethereum or Solana, partly is due to the ease that the RMRK guys gave on Singular. Like, I'm not a technical person, I'm a finance person, and when I think about NFTs and I hear about people on Ethereum, smart contract this, and I was like, what the, I don't know what that, I can't do that. But I go onto Singular and it's like, click create, upload, description, mint, and I was like, oh my God, like I can create NFTs now. So that obviously helped, but also, we didn't, like, it's such a saturated market on those other chains, and you can come here and try and have a real impact and a real difference and experiment more and get things wrong, and it's a bit more forgiving and there's a lot more support rather than going to Ethereum and you just get drowned out. So that was one of the main attractions that brought us over here.
I think the same for us as well, to get started with Kusama. It was Kusama in the beginning, but also it was the right thing to do to test before we recently won the Polkadot Parachain slot, so we'll be going, we'll roll all the features out on Polkadot as well, but Kusama gave us a very interesting testing ground to test and break a few things. And then, but back in 2019, when Greg, our CTO, was trying to do more stuff with NFTs on Ethereum, he ran into multiple obstacles and roadblocks, and when he figured out or realized the flexibility that Substrate offered in terms of, I think, sponsorship of transaction fee was something that really caught his attention, and they decided to really build within the ecosystem.
I think too, maybe you can touch on this, Mark, there's functionality that's available on Kusama that really doesn't exist yet on Ethereum. Do you want to talk a little bit more about what you guys do with RMRK?
Yeah, absolutely. So we chose Kusama because there is no smart contract capability in Kusama, and so Bruno, our founder, was very interested in building NFTs in the Kusama space and discovered along the way that we can build in all of these other really interesting feature sets for NFTs that can kind of exist outside of the smart contract space, or at least hadn't been discovered yet. So this involves nestable NFTs, NFTs that can own and equip and unequip other NFTs, and the ability to add multiple data resource types into NFTs along with conditional rendering, NFTs as DAOs, immutable NFTs on-chain, and just all of these other really interesting features that we can explore outside of the smart contract space. And now having done that, we can start building these in the smart contract space as well.
And then Miami, you and Craig are both in kind of the Moonbeam, Moonriver ecosystems. Like, how did you end up there?
Yeah, so Craig just launched a Moonbeam. We started on Moonriver. I've been following Polkadot. I've been a Polkadot backholder for a long time, and it just made sense because from a perspective of every chain is a silo nowadays, basically, and bridges are not the way forward in the sense that the most hacks and exploits that have occurred is because of bridges. And this on top has a building technology that in the future, the way at least I'm envisioning some sort of like XCM with NFT related tokens. So you can just do cross-chain NFTs like the Kings right now are on KSM. Eventually you should be able to have a version of that in Moonbeam or Moonriver and have added utility of smart contracts on top of it. So the NFT itself shouldn't be reliant on smart contracts, but it should be able to interact with smart contracts. And this is the technology that can potentially start backing that. But we're all pioneers in this, exploring it, so we'll see where it goes. But we took this bet. And since we came here, the support, especially from Pure Stake, I've never been on a chain. I've been a developer for a long time, and I've been coding in a lot of chains, and I've never been in a chain where they generally care a lot about developers. Like whatever we need, whatever we tell them, we need support. We need your name to back us to be able to talk to these people. And then Francisco is there being like, yeah, I'll like call them and get you there and stuff. And this is really nice to have as a developer. So we came for the tech and stayed for, well, the tech and also the people around it that are building this ecosystem. It's really great. And like we're friends with RMRK, we're friends with Sam King. So all these big projects are in theory have some layers of competition, but we're still able to work together and bring the whole ecosystem up, which is, you don't get that in other chains. Like I've been in those chains, you don't get that at all. It's very competitive, very like cutthroat, and they're very like backstabby in those chains. And this is the first chain where it feels like very homey, and together we're trying to bring something up.
Yeah. Anything to add, Craig?
Yeah, I think our entry to the Dotsama ecosystem was kind of like a happy accident. So we started working, at least we started conceptualizing our project, I don't know, sort of maybe 9 months ago. We had an idea of what we wanted to build. We wanted to create sort of an entertaining game, but also have the game assets live as NFTs. And we sort of started looking around for different networks where this might work. And we were looking at sort of a Polygon, an Avalanche, and a variety of different chains. And then we ended up getting introduced to the Pure Stake team through a friend of our project, Hutch from Zeitgeist. And you know, this was sort of the very early days. I think Moonriver might not have even launched yet. Moonbeam was sort of still a little bit off in the distance. And we started discussing with a team and you know, formed this great relationship. And it turned out that Moonbeam was a really great use case for what we were trying to do. We wanted to do a lot of on-game game mechanics. I'm a Solidity developer, so I was able to bring all of the tools and skills that I had directly onto Moonbeam without having to learn a new ecosystem, without having to learn tools. So sort of the technical barrier to entry was very low. But then it also just provided us the opportunity to do a lot more things that we wouldn't be able to do on a chain like Ethereum. I think for our whole mint experience, all of our users combined spent about $15 US on our mint, which is kind of unreal when you think about the prices that people pay on Ethereum. And what I was referring to in terms of being a happy accident is these were the things that sort of brought us into the ecosystem, but now it's opened all of these incredible doors from a technology standpoint as we start to look at things like XCM and also partnering with other projects and other protocols and other parachains. It's been like a really exciting entry point for me as a developer into like the substrate ecosystem, and then also just now moving forward, all of the interesting things we're going to be able to do by partnering with people and collaborating and bringing our assets and other assets potentially into the ecosystem.
Yeah, and I know there's a similar theme here, right, which is collaboration. And it's easy to talk about, but harder to do. So like, you know, do you guys have some examples that you can give for ways that teams are working together? Like even, I think RMRK's a great example where you're very in tune with different parachains, right? You're working with not just parachain teams, but projects that are building on top of parachain. So like, how do you guys approach a collaboration?
Yeah, we're very interested in partnering with all of the parachains, Unique, Zeitgeist. I mean, many of these banners that we see around here, we've talked to all of these projects and are curious to help parachains explore what we can do with a 2.0 NFT standard. Projects on Moonbeam, Moonriver, super curious to see how we can partner with other marketplaces, with our artists and friends that are building art and just exploring this creative space.
Yeah.
Just really curious to see what we can collaborate and what we can build together.
I love to see it.
I think that collaboration is just such like the lifeblood of Polkadot in general, right?
Yeah.
The whole parachain aspect, and even down to like the ground level artist NFT project roots. Like we do collabs with everyone. Like every artist supports each other, doing like joint auctions and stuff. Oh, sorry. Stuff like that. So I think that's just the whole ethos of Polkadot, and you see it at every stage, and it's just, like Miami said, like the relationship you build here is unlike any other chain I've been on, and it's just like a great place to be, and I encourage anyone who's watching this or isn't involved just to step in and reach out to, I'm sure, anyone here and take that step, and you won't regret it.
Yeah, and just to touch base on the collaboration here that Mark was talking about, like 2-3 days ago, Neon Crisis launched the first RMRK standard NFTs on an EVM, which they spend months working. They're an NFT project that launched through our marketplace, and we give them a lot of support, and they give us a lot of support. And they gave Remarkable a lot of support in building out the EVM contracts to be able to actually start operating smart contracts with Remarkable, at RMRK. And they basically, it's like another team that without all this collaboration, this would never happen. Like it's multiple projects working together and enabling them. Like what we built enables them to be able to focus on what they want to build. So they don't need to spend time recreating wheels, and we can just move forward faster as a whole ecosystem.
And I think from our perspective, it broadens the use cases that a lot of founders and entrepreneurs who want to build their own NFT marketplaces when they approach us. So we offer a chain which has these native capabilities around nesting, around fractionalization, around advanced rights management. But then for a marketplace, NFT marketplace to be successful, it needs a lot more. And we, of course, don't do everything. So it's like partnerships around identity. I mean, these are all potential partnerships around identity with Kilt, around storage with Trust. So because of this ecosystem and what XEM enables or empowers, I guess these partnerships will become very seamless. And then to the end user, we are able to, as an ecosystem, offer a comprehensive tech stack that addresses their product and business model designs.
Yeah.
That's what I'd say.
So looking back at Kusama and Polkadot, it's been a few years, right? Like Kusama first came out in 2019, so we're approaching 3 years. As you guys look at that, and I know all of your projects are sort of in different maturity stages, but how are you approaching expansion, whether that be sort of mass adoption or something else from a technology perspective? Like what are each of your goals when it comes to expanding your project? You want to go again?
Yeah, I can go. So one of the things that we want to focus on is bringing more users into the ecosystem from outside of the Polkadot core community. The core community understands the ecosystem really well, and when you look at outside the community, sometimes there is an apprehension that I do not understand Polkadot, or how do I get in? So one of the campaigns that we've recently launched is Punks for the People, where we aim to democratize access, and we believe that punks are really for the people and they're not meant to be sitting in yachts. So we bought a crypto punk. We plan to migrate it to the Quartz chain, which is our Kusama parachain, and then fractionalize it into tens of thousands of pieces and just give it to the community for free. But the process of signing up and process of claiming the fraction of CryptoPunk has been designed in a way that you don't really need to use Polkadot.js. If you want, you can, but you can do that through MetaMask as well. So that's the kind of user experience we want to build, that we can attract at the same level community from outside of the ecosystem, bring them in, and then sort of give them that experience of this community.
Yeah, yeah. Craig, I know Exile just launched very recently.
Yeah, so again, one of the great things that Moonbeam allowed us to do is we sort of gamified our Mint experience. So we wanted to create a way where, so the way that our game works is we have, every player has a collection of different assets. And by sort of combining those assets, you can participate in the game and sort of participate in the races. And one of the things that we wanted to try and do was that by having the gas fees so low is that we wanted to enable people to be making a lot of these transactions on-chain and sort of combining different assets and using different sort of, we call it a race stack, by being able to do that with like a really low cost. But really for us in terms of expanding, it's still really early. Like we've just minted, so we have this gamified mint experience. So we have 3 asset classes. We have pilots, we have racecrafts, which are sort of the ships, and then we have boosters, which are like inventory items. We've gone through the first phase now where people have minted their pilots, and we're in the process of going through the next 2 mint phases. So for us, it's still very early days. I mean, we're sort of trying to get over that first step before we start thinking about sort of expanding and getting that much bigger. But one of the things we're really hoping to do in terms of expansion is what's so great about being part of the .sama ecosystem is we're not just isolated to Moonbeam as a chain and it's only Moonbeam users. One of the things we're really excited about doing is sort of creating like a Formula One style environment where you have different teams potentially from different chains or different networks, as well as sort of sponsors from different networks and different chains or different protocols, and bringing everybody together in one place where you don't necessarily have to go through the process of bridging an asset to a different network, but perhaps you can just create an interface or even if it's just on the front end, where you have people can bring assets from different environments, potentially different chains, and everyone can sort of interact together in sort of one place without having to go through the technical difficulty of bridging and sending assets. And again, as a developer, this is something that's really exciting in terms of XCM and some of the other features that are part of the ecosystem. So we're really looking forward to getting stuck into that part of the project.
Yeah. Any other thoughts?
From my perspective, like I made an NFT marketplace. Like I'm an engineer, I'm a programmer, I'm in tech, I've been in tech for forever, but all my friends are artists, like almost exclusively every single one of them. And they all hate NFTs, even though they know I'm in NFTs. And so every time we hang out and stuff, it's me trying to just be like, you understand that like the current system and the way that current NFTs are handled and everything, it's not the end all be all. It's just a technology. When the internet started, it was filled with scams as well. And like, it's an open room, so people get to put whatever they want in it, and we're trying to build what works and what doesn't work. But while doing that, we leave massive communities outside of the space. Like just by nature of just like tech in general is pretty exclusive in that sense with specific minorities. And then same with, and especially with NFTs right now. So we're trying to build a system where we can actually start bringing onboarding users from Web 2 in general and people who are used to using Web 2, big Web 2 like art platforms. And we've partnered with some of them because they understand that their community don't want them to do this. But they want to do it because they see the potential in it, but they need to find a way to be able to bridge over those users and have it in a way that they don't feel excluded or they feel like this is like a money grab or any of that sort. So we've been working together with those, I don't think I can name drop them, but we've been working with them behind the scenes to try to figure out a way that we can bring what they bring to Web 2 into Web 3 and NFT marketplaces in general to try to make artists feel more comfortable with just being able to participate in the space. And not having to know the tech knowledge or having to even know what a wallet is. They should be able to kind of abstract away all of that from the end user and then slowly drip feed them how to become Web3 as opposed to being like pushed into the deep end and be like, make your own NFT, baby, like, let's go. So we're trying to build an experience around that to bring more community in general into not just .sama, but crypto in general that we just keep leaving behind constantly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and for Remark, we're excited to continue making this tooling available as widely as possible, building nesting with Unique and multi-resource with Moonriver, continuing to expand Singular and making it more and more easy to mint 2.0 NFTs, growing our artist base and providing more support and better support for every artist that wants to come mint NFTs, and then really exploring like now that we have 2.0 NFTs and they're here, like what do we do with this in the parachain space?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think we also, the NFT market in itself is just in its infancy, right? It's so small, and there's a few channels now like art and gaming that are dominant, but we're going to see over the next 5 to 10 years or even bigger, NFTs disrupt so many industries, and the Polkadot ecosystem and the way it's built and the low fees and XCM is the perfect ground for a lot of those projects to start building on, whether it's property, music rights, legal, all that sort of thing. So being able to attract those projects, and with the people like RMRK and Unique, being able to bring those type of people in and educating, or whether it's a Carla or whoever, is going to give us an incredible ground to have some of this tech and be at the forefront of it. And I think that's another way we need to think about growing, rather than the artist stuff is going to be amazing and that will grow, but the potential of the space to touch everything, I think, is huge. And I think that sometimes gets lost with NFTs, and people do just diss them and they say, oh, it's just people printing art and money grabs. And it's not. There's amazing art and there's amazing utility that comes with that, but there's also so much more that we can start exploring.
Sort of, looking at expansion and plans for the future, we've mentioned it a couple of times, but one of the hot topics, of course, of this particular conference, but just in general, is XCM, which is cross-consensus messaging. So when you think about XCM and when you think about interoperability as a whole, how are you guys approaching that? What kinds of use cases are you working on now or soon?
Yeah, I can go. So in the light of our current CryptoPunk or Punks for People campaign, the first sort of advanced capability that we wanted to demonstrate is fractionalization, and how we're doing that is, so essentially fractionalization on Ethereum involves a few smart contracts. So if a creator by themselves want to fractionalize, they can't do it. And what we want to enable is one-click fractionalization. But then taking that campaign forward, the next capability that we want the community to experience and sort of get their hands on is bundling. And the bundling capability allows not just bundling of two NFTs, but bundling of refungible tokens with fungible tokens. And that's the sort of the next step in the campaign, where from within the ecosystem, most likely a Kala, USD, AUSD is something that we will get the community to experience the bundling of the fraction of CryptoPunk with AUSD and create their own creative bundles of NFTs. We've recently, just yesterday, we announced that we're going to drop a chest. It's actually an NFT chest, which will hold these, which will hold the bundle together, the fraction and AUSD. So that's the capability that will be sort of enabled by XCM. So that's one that's right away on the sort of a roadmap. And then again, as I was talking about potential use cases with NFT, the decentralized storage of NFTs, and then even identity, integrating identity with NFTs, all of those use cases have to be enabled by XCM.
Yeah. Craig, I know you were talking about not being restricted to the Moonbeam ecosystem and being able to take advantage of other users and other assets. Like, what does that look like for Exiled?
Yeah, I mean, it could be, we could go so far as to say, so our sort of the game with a lot of sort of, it's narrative driven and there's a lot of lore involved. So we have these, we call them factions of different sort of clans of characters who race against each other. And for now we have a set number, but if we wanted, for example, expand the ecosystem and launch contracts on a different chain, perhaps introduce a new faction that lives on another chain that's like exclusive for that community, using XCM, we wouldn't have to, we would have allow that all that integration to be built in, so we could bring them into the ecosystem, participate in the game, and we wouldn't have to build any complicated bridges or anything like that. We would just be able to do messaging directly from one ecosystem to another without sort of making things overly complicated. I think another, not that we're sort of anywhere near that point yet, but I think another interesting idea is just in terms of like if we wanted to build our own marketplace, allow people to bring and sort of pay in different tokens without having to necessarily go through a DEX or bridge Moonbeam across, or bridge Glimmer across to another chain or something onto Moonbeam, and we would just allow people to pay or bring their native token to the game, and sort of maybe there's betting involved or people want to put a wager on a race. Instead of having to bridge assets across, you can say, well, I'm going to bring KSM to the table, I'm going to bring Glimmer, let's each put up what we want to put up, and then the smart contracts themselves will just handle the distribution of funds sort of when the time comes.
Yeah, from the RMRK side, we're curiously exploring building 2.0 tooling into state mine and statement as well.
Yep.
And so this may assist in XCM in some really helpful ways. So that could be very interesting, and not exactly sure if this is XCM or not, but Skybreach and building out a metaverse that can be interoperable as well, and hosting projects and artists and all sorts of stuff like that.
Yeah, well, and even just working with the Moonbeams team, right?
Absolutely.
You know, a lot of these, so RMRK assets are actually hosted on the Kusama relay chain. And so people forget to count the relay chain as part of these XCM interactions, but they very much are. And so even things like that, I think you guys were early on to start to implement some of that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, our focus is mostly, we're in here for XCM, but we're not here for XCM. Like Moonbeams itself, we're focusing on the fact that Moonbeam is an EVM, and that's where most people use crypto with. They interact with Ethereum, BSC, and these chains already have massive adoption. And this is the chain, this parachain is supposed to be the bridge between those worlds and .sama, basically. So we're focusing on the experience of bringing those users in, at which point then we'll start building in the future when XCM is more fleshed out and we have more use cases like those that, like cross-chain NFTs that I mentioned, we can start focusing on that. But our focus right now is just to bring those people into this ecosystem. So in general, we have a bigger base to start building, and not just people and users, but also teams and developers also working on this. And that's our focus. So XCM is not fully in our roadmap for the rest of this year, probably starting next year when we're more fleshed out, and we have like, because RMRK is coming into EVM, into Moonriver pretty soon, like full force. They just did land sales and stuff, and we'll start dealing with all those things once they start becoming more apparent in the ecosystem in general.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, I mean, for us, it's not on that sort of level, but for us, XCM will enable us to maybe go onto Moonbeam, make them EVM compatible, and it just makes that transfer more free for people, and the ability to use smart contracts and stuff for us, because our NFTs are almost run like a fund, so underneath it there's a fund that we manage, and the holders, you can essentially think of them as like limited partners, and at the moment it's just me and a spreadsheet and like and would be paying people out, but if I can stake them and the payouts become automatic and people collect it, then that's a huge win for me, and you can start thinking and getting more creative the more of these channels start opening up.
Yeah. I did want to talk about, too, some of the differences between Kusama and Polkadot when it comes to culture, right, the NFT culture. Because I think there's a lot of different projects that popped up early on Kusama, especially last year, sort of when it was the heyday of lots of NFT projects spinning up. So like, what's your perspective on the differences we see now with Kusama and NFT culture, and then how do you think that'll play out in the next couple of years?
Can I start with this one? Because I was there basically on the day that Moonriver went live. I was in the Telegram ape channels. I was hanging out with the apes. We were all just like waiting for a DEX to launch. The Solar Beam launched, and we're all just DEXing, and then we were like, okay, NFTs are next. We're going to figure out and build the tools to be able to support NFTs because collections wanted to launch. And so we made the marketplace, and we saw like instant influx of just like collections just constantly launching. And it was wild. It was like peak bull run basically when Moonriver launched. And that was like tons and tons of teams would come and like start making NFT collections. So I would say the NFT community in Moonriver caught everybody by surprise. Like, no one was expecting, PureState wasn't expecting. When it happened, they basically reached out to us. We're like, what is happening? Like, you guys need to teach us about NFTs. We don't know what an NFT basically is. And like, we had to give them like crash courses on what was going on. And it was surreal. It was surreal. It was a lot of people that was like very grassroots kind of vibe. Like, it was people that were just like very beginning programmers, or people who had like large teams already set up that were gonna like take it by storm, like Moonsama and stuff like that, where it was just like everything came out of nowhere. And the tools were behind. So like the NFTs collection are coming out, and we were trying to build to keep up with like helping like be able to trade and stuff. How to be able to get funds out of rugs that happened, because it was just, yeah, it happened a lot. So it was really fun. And I would say Polkadot is like the complete opposite in terms of how Moonbeam launch went. So Moonbeam, we're live on Moonbeam. EXR is one of the first collections, one of the big first collections to launch there. There's a few more, but it's very dedicated. Like, it's very specialized teams that have been doing this for some time, being like, no, I want to launch A, B, and C, and they take their time to actually do it properly, as opposed to just being, here's a smart contract, let's just see how it goes, like, and we just worry about it later. So it kind of makes sense with the Spect Chaos and like the Polkadot kind of branding. I don't know if that's inherently because the branding has got to us or what's going on, but it's very much so. Like, it's very much so. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was wild at the start. I remember, and like when I first came into it and was like going on Singular, and you could just see everyone was just trying their luck. Like some of these collections were just wild. Like some of the names I probably can't even repeat on this stage. Like there was things going off and it would be like 10,000, but only 13 have been minted, and people just giving up. And that's why I when I was on there, I was like, well, I could probably do one of these. I have no business making NFTs. I was a finance guy, but they made it so easy for people, which is amazing. It's democratizing that thing, and anyone who has an idea or a bit of creativity about them can go on there and try it out and see how far you can go. So yeah, it was just amazing to watch that unfold on Kusama and see everyone experimenting and seeing what is successful, because it was so different to what was successful on Ethereum. It was amazing just watching that evolve and taking bits from different projects and being able to come up with your own. And it was like for my cousin who's the artist, it was like life-changing for her what she'd been able to create, and she was just a mum at home. And to see her art selling and being successful, it's just an amazing thing to watch, and that's some of the power that NFTs can bring to people.
Yeah, I never personally had much experience sort of in the Kusama NFT world, but I think just my view on sort of at least the broader NFT market or the NFT ecosystem in the Dotsama ecosystem, KBL were discussing, and I were discussing this earlier, is that I think it's a little bit naive to think that a lot of the NFT market isn't driven by speculation, and a lot of people see it as sort of a speculative asset class. And as from a technological standpoint, I mean, a lot of like the innovation, at least sort of smart contract and Solidity innovation that's happening in the NFT space, at least on Ethereum, is all about gas optimization. How do you create sort of new auction mechanisms to sort of reduce gas wars and save people on gas fees? And I think it's an exciting time to be a part of sort of this, not just sort of this ecosystem, but also the time that this is happening. I mean, with the downturn that's happened with everything now, my personal hope is that it flushes out a lot of speculators and it sort of levels the playing field a little bit. But I think we're in a unique position now as builders and innovators, and that the Dotsama NFT ecosystem has some really incredible technology, like the stuff that Unique is building, the stuff that RMRK is building. We have the opportunity to build into NFTs and NFT projects that have sort of real utility and real additional use cases. I mean, to me, the idea of like an NFT can be anything, but like having an NFT as a gated concert ticket doesn't really give it real utility. I mean, I think it's more of a use case than a speculative asset, but we have the opportunity now to show people that you can do things so much more than just create speculative access or things that are tokenized assets. You can actually, they can become composable, they can become part of in-game assets, they can be sort of interact with other things on chain, they can talk to other chains. I think it's a really unique opportunity to bring people into the ecosystem and grow the NFT ecosystem on Dotsama, building really interesting things that hopefully people will want to use and sort of will bring them in, as opposed to just seeing as it like, this is a cartoon monkey that is now worth $1,000 and in the future might be worth $200,000, therefore I'm going to get involved. I mean, not throwing shade on that, I've invested and been in the NFT space for a while, and part of my enjoyment of it is the fact that I can use them as investments and buy and sell them, but I think that's just such a limiting viewpoint, and like we really have an opportunity to do something that's generally a lot more interesting.
In terms of expecting chaos, as Miami has said, that the branding has got to us, so we understand it. And in the beginning, when we launched Substrapunks, which were sort of created for the Kusama Hackathon in 2020 on Kusama, I mean, there were issues. Things were breaking down. The punks were missing sometimes, and then we were able to restore them. But because we get that, expect chaos very well, we were okay with it. But one of our partners and client, Digital Art for Climate, that's a collaborative initiative between UN Habitat, IAI Culture. They're both United Nations accredited organizations. And so they don't expect chaos. They are serious organizations trying to do something that drives real impact. So with time, we were able to explain that, we're just testing stuff. It'll be okay. We'll be able to fix it. But that culture is very much in the community. We are a part of it. But when people from outside view it, they take a bit of time to figure out. And then they're okay with it.
We had some of those conversations too. We ended up describing Kusama as sort of the playground
Yeah.
where you could kind of be a little messy, try new stuff, and try it on for size, whereas Polkadot was a little more buttoned up, a little more driven.
And we don't like to explain it in a way that it's a test net. So,
But it's not.
yeah,
Famously, as
famously, yeah.
Parody's been saying for years, it's not a test
It's
net.
not.
So we are coming up on time, and I want to make sure everyone has a chance to kind of close out here. So, what do you guys have on the horizon? What are things that you guys are really excited about? I know we've touched on this in different capacities in terms of expansion strategies, as well as XCM. But if you guys kind of, I guess we'll start with you, Miami, just so everyone has a chance to talk down the line here.
We have under a minute. So Beans started as a beta, basically. We launched it really quick just to prove, it's a proof of work, or like proof of concept that we have the skills to build it out. And in the past few months, we've been working on building an actual fully dedicated marketplace. So we're working on bringing that out. That should be out probably sometime this year or later in the year. Next, I guess.
Yeah, we're
basically.
We're really excited for palette development, EVM development. We're partnering with teams to write RMRK and Ink, and so exploring WASM and WASM contracts and what that looks like, and just parachain partnerships, everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, just two things. I'm excited to see how the Punks of People campaign evolves and brings the community in. And then the second thing that we are working on is app promotion staking, where the token holders will be able to support and sponsor the transaction fee of apps they believe in and want to support. I think that's the capability we are building out.
Yeah, that's
Excited
cool.
about that, yeah.
Yeah, so we're just going to continue to try and grow the fund below the NFTs and deliver that value back for holders over the course of the bear market. And then the next stage is we're working with releasing a project on Moonbeam where we're going to be focusing on social good and charitable stuff with NFTs.
Yeah, and then for Exiled Races, I mean, the immediate goal is to complete the following two mint phases, or sort of mid-cycle, so we have all of our game assets, and then aiming for Q3 to launch sort of the beta version of our game. And then following that, start looking into the sort of partnerships and expanding into the greater Dotsama ecosystem.
Cool. Well, thank you guys so much. We've had a lovely group of panelists here. Certainly if you have questions, feel free to contact them directly. Thank you guys. This has been absolutely great. I appreciate it.